Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about my labor and delivery, and I'm going to tell you guys how it went for me. And so first, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions in the comments or DMs on Instagram about what is under my eye, and it's the Pixie Detoxify eye, just these under eye patches. I love these. They really work. I get really swollen eyes, especially in the morning, and these really just help it. So yeah, that's why I'm wearing that right now. But yeah, so my labor and delivery story, I'm gonna start off with how it was transitioning into me being into labor. So 2 months before I gave birth, I was having false labor. I kept having contractions every day, and they were so painful. And I kept going to the ER, and every time they'd be like, "Oh, you're in false labor." Well, when I first went to the ER, they told me that a lot of women get contractions when it's coming to the end of the pregnancy, and their cervix is kind of opening. And so I was like, okay. So then they sent me home, and then again I was having extremely painful contractions. It would just not stop. And so then they just they put me into a room and was checking my contractions, and then the doctor came and he's like, "Oh, they're just again contractions," and they sent me home. And then again I went, contractions, sent me home. Again I went, contractions, they sent me home. Then one day I just was in excruciating pain, and I went to the ER. I think this was around 2 in the morning, and I went to the ER, and then the doctor came and said, "Oh, you're in false labor, you might deliver tonight." And then they were measuring my baby, and Ehsan was really small for his pounds were really small for how many months I was. So he should have been more bigger than what he was. And so then they're like, "You can't go into labor, you need to keep that baby in as long as you can." And so they gave me these pills, and these pills are supposed to stop your contractions and stop you from going into false labor. So they gave me those pills, and I was taking those pills, and they were working and stuff, and I was taking them continuously like how they said to take them. And then one night I went to bed. I took my pills. I took my pills that they gave me for my contractions, because that's the only way to stop my contractions. And so then I went to bed, and then I guess Omer was trying to wake me up or something, and I wasn't waking up. And so that's what he told me. And then I remember waking up in the ambulance, and I was like, "Yo, where am I?" And he was just like, "Oh, your family was pretty worried about you because you weren't waking up." And I was just like, I don't even know how I got here. And so when I woke up, oh my god, my nose was hurting. And I'm like, why does my nose hurt so bad? They stuck this long of a tube down my nose, and they're just at first we're like, okay, maybe you just passed out. But when we put that tube down your nose, we were kind of worried because you didn't even make a flinch. And I was just like, I don't even know how I'm here. And then he goes, what made you to wake up? And I'm like, I felt my baby kick me. And he's just like, "Oh, so your baby kicked you and you woke up, but us shoving a big tube down your nose didn't wake you up." And I'm like, no. And so, the doctor checked me out and everything, and like they, they checked me out, and they're just like trying to figure out how I passed out. And they finally figured out the medication that I was taking made me pass out. And because that medication to stop my contractions and my labor was actually that medicine is prescribed for people with high blood pressure, and it lowers their blood pressure. So the reason why I passed out was due to my blood pressure being super low. And the next day came, and me and Omar, we went to my appointment. I was going to a specialist because my son was measuring pretty low for how many months I was. So, we went to a specialist, and, the appointment went well and everything. And then on our way home, we got in a car accident. It was not a big car accident, it was just a minor car accident. But, when Omar so somebody came into Omar's lane, and Omar hit the brakes because he didn't want to hit the car. And he tried to turn the car to the right so it doesn't like hit me. And so when he tried to turn it, he hit his side of, like, he pressed the brakes, it went super tight on my stomach. And I thought I was fine. I wasn't in any pain or anything. And then, we came home, and how when you get in a car accident you do all that stuff, and then after all that stuff we went home. And then a few hours later I was in so much pain. Like I was in like labor. Literally, I was going into labor. I felt like I was gonna die. I was in so much pain. And I thought that was so much pain. And then I get to the hospital. And I'm sitting there, and they're checking me, and they're just like, "Oh, you're just getting contractions again, blah 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 blah. Like you can go home and stuff." And I'm like, okay. And they check me out, and they have the contraction belts on me. And actually, what, the false contractions, they're calling it Braxton Hicks. So they're like, "Oh, it's just Braxton Hicks, like you're fine and everything." And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. And they're just like, "Oh, it happens." What they just told me before when I was in like false labor. And you know what, those nurses like literally knew me personally on a personal level because I was there every single day. I kid you not. Or every 2 days. Like I was there all the time. And so then the nurse was like, "Okay, we're gonna send you home." And I'm like, okay, I'm in like so much pain. Like I didn't even want to go home because I was in that much pain. And then luckily, one nurse said, "Actually, we're gonna keep you for like 2 hours just to see how much you're dilated." Because at that time I was only dilated like 3 centimeters when I was there. And they're just like, "We're just gonna see how you dilate." And then, like, I kid you not, like 15 minutes after they checked my cervix and I was dilated, I was 7 centimeters dilated. And holy shit, I was in pain. I was crying. They're just like, "Yep, you need to go and deliver your baby now." So then I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to take me, and I was waiting such a long time for somebody to take me. And then finally I get in the room. And when I get in the room, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just want my epidural. That's all I want." And I was in my room, like turning left and right, like I'm in so much pain. And you know what? The lady's like, "Okay, we're gonna call the anesthesiologist so you can get your epidural." I'm like, okay. And like I'm waiting like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And like I'm like, it feels like 2 hours. Reality, it was about like an hour. And I'm like 9 centimeters now, and I'm like screaming and crying, and I'm in so much pain. And then Omar had called his mom, and she came and stuff, and she was there. And then I think the nurse told them, like Omar's to, because the nurse, they only let Omar to be there. And so, Omar had to take his mom into the lobby, or I think she was going home or something. No, she was in the lobby actually. And I'm at 9 centimeters, and when Omar left to go take his mom into the lobby, I started screaming. Like, I got in so much pain, and I was screaming and crying, and I was like, when are you getting me that epidural? I want that epidural right now. Give it to me now. And like they're like trying to call the anesthesiologist, and like they're like, I'm trying to call him, and all this. It was such a mess, and I was like, oh my god. Then the lady comes in and gives me my she came to give me my like IV, and I kid you not, I swear to god, they poked me at least like 7 times, and they're just like, oh, you have such tiny veins, I can't find it. And I'm like thinking, like, bro, like, I don't know if you're professional or not, like, come on. So then one lady, like, she poked me like 3 times, and another lady poked me another 3 times, and another lady poked me another 2 times, and then finally one lady got it right. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. And I'm getting these contractions while they're trying to put all these needles in me, and I can't sit still. And then finally, okay, this is the most horriblest part of the story. Finally, the anesthesiologist comes to give me my epidural, and while he's like, okay, they're like, okay, you need to sit still, you can't move, and I kid you, and like, hence I'm 9 centimeters dilated. Okay, like I'm in labor, and I'm like ready to give birth, literally, and I'm 9 centimeters, and they're putting an epidural in my back, and they're like, oh, don't move. Like, I'm in so much pain. What do you expect me to do? Not move? And so 9 centimeters, I'm getting my epidural, and they're told me, you have to sit up, and hence your back forward, loosen up so then they can put the needle in your spine and stuff. And so then I'm like, oh my god, like, I don't even know where to begin, how painful my contractions were. I didn't even care about the shot in my back. Like, that wasn't even painful. Like, I kid you not, the shot in your back is not painful. The contractions are painful. Like, when you're in that much pain, you don't even care. You're just like, give me whatever. And so I'm having contraction during the time that he's putting the needle in my back, and they're just like, don't move, don't move, and if you move, you could, like, literally, you can die if you move. And I'm like, oh my god, like, I can't. I was like, I tried so hard to sit still while getting the epidural in my back, and oh my god, it was the most hardest thing of my life. The hardest part was to sit still during my contractions while getting that epidural. Then finally, when I got the epidural, everything started to calm down. Everything was getting calm for me. Slowly the pain was going away. And as soon as I got the epidural, I didn't feel anything. I didn't even feel my son when I gave birth. I didn't even feel giving birth. It was like a smooth ride after that epidural. And then my little bunny bear, Ehsan, he came out 3 pounds, and I don't remember how many ounces. And he came out 3 pounds. He was super tiny. And I'm gonna insert like videos or pictures if I find any. And I'll also insert like videos and pictures of when I was in like false labor and stuff. So yeah, I was just like so happy that he was out, even though he was born a month early. I was so happy he was out, because honestly, he wasn't doing any better in here. He would be doing much more better in the outside world than in my stomach, because he was just not growing, and he was premature, and he was in the NICU for 12 days. And we would go visit. I was in the hospital for 2 days after I gave birth, and I was going up and down to the NICU, back upstairs, and then finally I was released from the hospital. So it was really hard for me to go home, and him being in the hospital, I would cry every night. I just didn't want to leave the hospital. I wanted to stay there, and it was really hard for me to just leave him at the NICU and me go home. And then finally, you know, things got better. He was picking up the weight, but the problem was his, when he was in the NICU, his sugar level was always down, and finally, you know, he reached up to that. Then the problem was he wasn't drinking enough of his milk, so he had to get a feeding tube down his nose, and so that really helped him to pick up the weight. So if you guys have a premature baby, or if you know that you're gonna be having a baby early, you know, I was really scared of him having the feeding tube. I did not want him to have it, but you know, it really helped him pick up the weight fast, and it really helped him to get out of the NICU faster. So I would recommend, even if they say like he has to get a tube, like, I was really sad. I didn't want him to have it. I felt really bad, but you know, it really helped him to pick up that weight. And so yeah, and then he finally got to come home, and it was the best feeling ever. It was just, I felt great having my son with me at home. It was horrible having him in the NICU. So yeah, and then slowly he just picked up the weight. You know, it feels like yesterday, literally. It feels like I just brought him home yesterday, and now, mashallah, he is, I think, 12 pounds now, and he's just like a butterball. He's the most cutest, and he looks like his dad so much. Him and Omar are like literally twins. So yeah. But yeah. So yeah, any tips about when giving birth? Honestly, I recommend you telling your doctor that when you are in labor and you're pushing your baby, I recommend him, like, you having oil, you know, there, so just so you don't get any tears or anything. And so I really recommend that, because that's what I asked my doctor, and he did that for me, and I had no tears, and you know, everything went smoothly after that epidural. So anybody that wants to have a baby natural or had a baby natural, I give you like so much respect, because that shit is so painful. Oh my god, just the contractions alone are so painful. Imagine just giving birth naturally. I bet that's like the most painfulest thing. And you know, one time I had a nurse tell me like, oh, having a baby naturally is not that bad, it feels so good. And I was like, oh, I want to have my baby natural. Man, as soon as I got those contractions, I was like, I don't even care, hook me up to that epidural. And you know what, I had my epidural so late that I was just like, you know what, there's no even point in me getting this epidural. I could just give birth naturally now, because it was so late. Like, everybody asked me like, I don't even know how you got to 9 centimeters. I was like, I don't know, I just wanted to die at that point. Or I felt like I was dying at that point. But yeah, so that's my story on my labor and delivery, and I hope you guys enjoyed this story of how I was in labor and delivery. And I hope it really helped, especially about if your baby is premature or going to be premature, you know, that you're gonna give birth early. So yeah, just don't be scared if they say that they need a feeding tube. You know, I think most NICU babies get a feeding tube. It's not, I mean, I was really scared at first, but you shouldn't be scared. It really helps them pick up the weight. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. So please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. It's not leaving me alone. Stop playing with my chair. Bye bye.